Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the Waffentrager auf Panzer 4. Now this is a guide I've been meaning to put on the channel for a long time. Every other tank from this line is on here, except for this one. But I'm going to be honest and tell you about my stupidity. So, I started the guide for this last week. I haven't got this tank in my garage anymore. I sold it in order to fund my grill. So, this is the exact reason I have a contributor account, so I can go into it, test vehicles, etc., and put up reviews. So I did. Except, the tank didn't feel as good as it used to. In my head, this was a very, very weak tank in terms of armour, with a fantastic gun. When I went to play it, the gun just didn't handle as well as it used to. So, I thought maybe it's in my head as a result of me remembering it as a better tank than it was. So I played my games, I got a mastery, and I thought, great, I'll start making my video. Yeah. It was only when I started going over the stats of the tank in my contributor account I noticed my fatal mistake. So, if we flick to this screen, can anyone see the problem? I'm sure some of you have already spotted this by now. I don't know why I didn't spot it, but I didn't. Yes, I am an absolute noob. What I didn't do was go into the account and put the crew skills up to 100%, or even up to 75. I took this thing out with 50% crew. And all the footage I did of this video, I did with 50% crew. Now, my logic at this point in time was I can't do a guide with 50% crew, because all the stats will be off, and as a result, you're not really going to get a real indication of what's going on with the tank. So I had to redo all my footage. Except, I'm going to keep the mastery game at the end. So the mastery game at the end of this will have 50% crew, but the reason I want to keep it is because it's just downright outrageous. RNGesus must have felt sorry for me running around with my 50% crew and not even knowing about it. So, the last game, RNGesus is seriously on my side. So, with my stupidity out of the way, the first thing I want to show you and have a look at is the guns. What we're going to have a look at is on the left here the 12.8cm gun, and on the right the 15cm gun. The first thing you will note is the 15cm gun has about 100 DPM more, which really isn't a great deal. What you will see vastly different is the 276mm pen on the left and the 235 on the right on the 15mm. That's with the AP, but when we switch to the premium ammunition, which is the APCR, and the heat on the 15mm, you'll see there's not a great deal of difference there. So obviously the heat actually makes up for it on the 15cm. But where the 15cm does shine is on the HE. 960 alpha compared to 600, and you get 85mm of penetration in comparison to the 65 on the 12.8. That's a big seller for me on this gun. On the AP on these guns, the alpha is 460 on the 12.8 and 640 on the 15cm. For me, I prefer the higher alpha, but there are drawbacks. For example, if you look at the gun dispersion here, it's like a laser beam with 0.299 on the 12.8. And on the 15, you'll see it's 0.34. The difference you will find, it's not a huge amount on the battlefield, but you can feel it sometimes. You will miss the occasional shot a little bit more with the 15cm. But here's the other thing to consider, which isn't pointed out often about the difference between these two guns, is the power to weight ratio. The 12.8 weighs about 2 tons more than the 15cm. And as a result, you actually get better mobility on the tank with the 15cm. What these figures basically mean is you'll have about 10% more acceleration with the 15cm. That will make a difference. In certain scenarios where you do need to run away from something very quickly, you'll find that does make a difference. And there are the weight figures. So we are looking just around 2 tons different. There is one other very important big difference between these two guns I do want to show you as well. And for that, we are going to use Armor Inspector. Now, both these guns have 5 degrees of gun depression. All around the tank, only 5 degrees. There is something to note there. The gun depression is calculated and worked out from how much it depresses on its axis. What it doesn't take into consideration is the shape or angle of the chassis. So the most important thing to note with this tank is basically it's higher at the front than it is at the back. You'll notice the angle, if you turn this tank sideways, it basically slopes off. Now the reason that's important is because although statistics will say this thing has only got 5 degrees of gun depression, when you look at this thing side on, the back is considerably lower and it's angled downwards. So when you put the gun over the back, you technically get more than 5 degrees gun depression, even though it's still only showing 5 degrees of gun depression. It's not strictly true. When it's angled over the back, you get something like 10 degrees because of how much it's angled off on the actual chassis. Now you can use this to your advantage very well because you can ridge fight with this as a result of that gun depression over the back. There is a catch though. The catch is if you notice the back of this gun on the 15cm overhangs the chassis. So when you have the gun over the back, you have no gun elevation at all. Where it is now, as you can see there, is pretty much the maximum and the gun is completely flat. So there is no gun elevation over the back with the 15cm. This is where the 12cm actually gets an advantage over the 15cm. While we're looking at that though, we can't go onto the 12.8 without commenting on its ridiculously high gun elevation. 45 degree gun elevation. It's completely overkill. You're probably never going to need it, but it looks funny. But if we go back to the topic, you can see we still have 5 degrees gun depression over the back facing this way. But when we go into the gun elevation, the back of the gun isn't as big. So we get 14 degrees gun elevation. When you're aiming over the back, it basically means with the 12.8, if somebody goes uphill, you've got more chance of shooting them. I'll show you examples of what I mean in the game as well when we show some replays now. And aside from all of those things I explained, I personally still prefer the 15cm gun. The reason I prefer the 15cm gun is because of that higher alpha, the more reliable HE penetration, and it means you're not as exposed for long. This first replay actually, you'll notice the reload is 15 seconds rather than something like 11 once it's fully equipped. That's because this replay is with the 50% crew. Regardless of the crew though, I still wanted to show this replay because I think it gives a good indication of how this tank can snipe very well, even with 50% crew and with the 15cm gun. And also while we're waiting for the reds to appear, equipment wise I run the gun lane drive, the rammer and a camo net. The camo on this thing is fantastic, there's no harm in making it better. So I do run camouflage and the camo net for that reason. I also run adrenaline, multi-purpose repair kit and the repair kit, and on the provisions front I run improved fuel and the 2 provisions for crew mastery, which would be the chocolate and the chocolate bar. So, back on with the game though, you'll see that my team are pushing left and I basically decided to hang back on this high ridge to see what I can see and see if I can get some cover and fire in. Some may say I'm camping. Some would probably be right. This thing's got no armor. There's no harm in hanging back in this because of the lack of armor. That being said, if you can get stuck in without taking return shots, then well, it's definitely worth it. And with my ammo loadout here, you can see it's 11 AP, 10 heat and the rest HE. And even across the map with the heat, we get a nasty shot into that T-54, and it serves him right for also camping. But yeah, you'll notice from my ammo loadout there, it's virtually equal amounts of all the ammo because it's just so reliable, the HE is. We fire a blind shot where we think the Object 704 will be there. I like firing blind shots, you've probably noticed from my previous videos, but we'll find out if that one hits when he reappears. But yeah, back onto the ammo. The AP has low penetration values, which is why I carry that equal amount of heat, basically. And then you'll see the HE there. Well, it's very, very good. And if you got something in front of you with under 300 health, very easily take it out with that HE without even having to waste your time aiming for weak spots. And the time it can take to aim for weak spots if you're close range can be the difference between taking a massive shot off an enemy or not. There is a Type 61 by there and we are going to get a shot into him. So we're 460 meters away from him and that went straight to target, no problem at all. And I believe that is the 704 missing a big chunk of his health. which makes me think we got our first shot into him. And although the AP has that lacking penetration, at 460 meters, we still managed to get our second shot into him. Now this to me is the difference between a camper and a sniper. Borsig is close range to us. I can sit on my spot and just continue to basically receive shots while I take shots, or I can get down from my perch and go and deal with him. As I say that though, an IS-3 appears. I'm not going to go out without cover with an IS-3 right in front of me. So I'm going to wait until he backs up, and then I'm going to go down on my left and I'm going to try and see if I can get to that Borsig. And when he reappears, we can see I took all of his health in my first shot, but he got his revenge as he came up, well, as I came up the hill. He got a HE into me and set me on fire, taking 1,000 of my health. But now that he is dead, and now there's pretty much nothing for me to shoot at long range, I'm going to go and push up. So, sitting in the same spot over and over again, and ooh, check this shot out. Hang on. Ah, bad aim, my ass. Oh, that shot really tickled me, especially when you think of what the gun dispersion values are with this crew. It's, do you know what? Even with the bad gun dispersion, it's still a fantastic gun. And with that massive alpha, you don't need to get a lot of shots off to get some really good damage games in. There is one enemy left. You'll see I've instantly switched to my HE. I don't care where I shoot him. I can pretty much guarantee when I do shoot him, it's going to kill him. Or if I get a chance to shoot him. Obviously, everybody's going in for the last kill. I'm going to go down, assuming he's coming this way. I'll be very surprised if I do get to him before they do, though. Especially as we are now stuck in the water. We may just make it, though. Hang on, and this is the beauty of the HE. You don't aim, you just point. And that's it. You can easily, well, ninja kills. I guess that 704 was unhappy. So, that would be my example though as to how to use this thing long range. And even at long range, without doing much spotting, we got 4,600 damage in there and 3 kills. Now this replay gives a nice example of what I was explaining earlier about the gun depression over the back. Using the gun depression over the back can be very advantageous. The big downside though is setting it up. Obviously this doesn't have the fastest traverse time. So getting this tank to a position and then slowly turning it round just to back it up isn't always advisable. The other thing with this, by the way, is you'll notice the aim time, or sorry, the reload is now down to 11 point something. It's this is with 100% crew, and you can see we're setting up now to use the gun depression over the back. Yeah, it takes its time to set up, but there is a Waffle on the enemy team, right by there as well, which is why you'll see I've loaded the HE straight away, and as soon as he pops up a little bit more, we can get one into him and do 825 damage. You'll notice from the angle of his gun as well, because he was driving up forward, he did not have the gun depression to get to me. But here is the downside. Once you get flanked, the gun traverse is not very good at all. So I accelerated a bit too quickly here, and obviously you can see the lack of gun depression allowing me to get to that tasty lower plate there. But once you're in this position, if you are flanked, it takes its time to turn around. So as I'm reloading, I am going to back up, but once I'm reloading, I'm coming back out. One shot into the side of the Leo, and it just leaves the IS-7. But I noticed that the enemy Waffle is back, so I am going to get myself back in that position and get one more HE in and finish him off. Now, aside from the Waffle, there is one other tank stopping us reversing all the way around, and that will be this E75 by here, and we are going to get a cheeky shot into the side of him, but it's not going to be enough to finish him off. So he's only on 17. I am going to leave him, try and hide from that enemy Death Star, and see if I can offer some assistance to that 183 behind me trying to deal with that IS-7. We are going to get one into the IS-7 and get back into cover safely. Thankfully, you can see that Death Star trying to look for us, and he can't get a shot there. So I'm going to pull back out thinking I'm nice and safe, get one into the IS-7 and take a huge shot off that Death Star. Ow. Now that the 183 is on a massive reload, we know for a fact we are safe to come out. So I am going to help with the IS-7 and we're going to finish him off as well. It just leaves that Death Star, but I'm not going to be able to get to him. Obviously, we can see he's long gone by the time I even get my gun down to him. So that's an example of how to use the gun over the back of the tank. What that game results in is a total of 4,033 damage and 3 kills, but that also gets us a first class because we are firing against higher tier tanks. Now this next game is also a tier 10 battle, and I start to make my way up towards the temple when I realise that pretty much the entire team have gone left, so I am not going to go up to the temple alone. I am going to go with those guys. That also brings me on to the keynote of this tank. If you're front line by yourself, you're going to get ripped to bits because everybody's shooting at you. I find the best way to play this tank, regardless of the aiming statistics, or dispersion rather, it's best played at long range. Use the camo to basically stay there, sneak a shot with that huge alpha into somebody, and then relocate or pull back so you can't take the return shot. Or, if you're not in that sort of circumstance, what you want to be doing is staying second line. Basically allowing your friendlies with more armor to absorb the damage so you can dish it out in support to them. I know this sounds like I'm talking about using friendlies as meat shields. I kind of am. The reality is you don't have the armor to be a meat shield or absorb any damage for your friendlies. Your job is to support them doing massive damage. And there's another good example of how good the gun is on this tank. Yes, it does have a gun arc because it has very low gun velocity. That's not always a bad thing though. You do need to lead your shots more, and that's what everybody talks about. With APCR, it's got high velocity, and it basically just goes directly where you aim. This next shot is a perfect example of why a gun arc is good. There's not a lot of that IS-8 showing, and I'm sitting here going, shall I shoot him? Shall I not shoot him? Will I even hit it? I am going to risk it. You can see how much of him showing. The gun arc from low velocity guns can actually get your shells over to things which you wouldn't expect to hit. And here's another example of a great shot with this tank. And the reason I find this gun so good is because regardless of that dispersion, the aim time is fantastic. And that's why regardless of the drawbacks of this 15mm gun in comparison to the 12.8, such as the penetration and the lack of gun elevation on the back, I still prefer this gun because the aiming time is exactly the same, dispersion's about 10% worse, and the alpha is well worth it. Plus, with the large caliber gun, obviously you get the better HE, and you have a much higher chance of ammo racking something. Now at the moment, there's an M48 pattern in front of us, an M60 to the left, and another tank directly in front. I'm going to try and help this object 268, but in the end I just end up being a hindrance because I accidentally block him. So I'm going to back up so I don't block him. As I do so though, I take a shot off this M60, who obviously is hiding behind the building. I'm going to try and return a shot, dunk it into the building, and this is the other downside to driving the tank backwards. Logic dictates, and it's your muscle memory, you're going to reverse to try and pull away, but when you reverse, you actually pull out further. So you've got to remember when you're backwards to actually push forward, basically, to get back into cover. It sounds strange, but when you try it, you'll realise what I mean. And every single person who's already done this is going to be going, yeah, I've done that at least once. Okay, so there's just that enemy M60 left. I am a one-shot to him, so I want to get myself in a position ready where I'm already aimed for him to come out, and he comes out exactly in front of my gun where we're aiming, so it means we do get that last kill. In that circumstance, if we didn't have this gun and we had the 12.8, we wouldn't have finished him in that circumstance. But that does end the game on 3,400 damage, and we are top of the board. Now this game. There is no... Yeah, there is no skill involved in this. This is pure RNGesus guiding and helping me. This is the last replay of the video, and as a result it is my mastery one. I start to pull up to the right. Again, as per the last one, notice the team going left, so I am going to go with them. The other thing to note is the reload is back on 15. What that pretty much means is we are back to the 50% crew, as you can see by the slow aiming time as well. But we get a nice shot for 880 into the lower plate of that Leo, and he is finished off very quickly as a result. So before we're rudely interrupted by that Leo, I am going to come up onto this ridge and try and support my team. I don't want to go first. I need to be waiting for people to spot for me. So I'm going to get into position ready and hope to see something. By this point in time though, if there's anything down there, they would have spotted it. Which is why I'm pushing ahead now. Because the reality is they're probably going to appear behind me, which one of them already has. Now the AT-15A is pretty slow, so he's got left behind. And he is calling for help, which is why I'm trying to look for shots on this IS-8 to help him. One other tank, which I can't see what it is from here, has gone back to help him. I'm going to load my AP and see if we can get a shot into the IS-8. Oh, we get an ammo rack. I was kind of hoping for an affirmative from that AT-15A, because we helped him there. But doesn't matter, we got an ammo rack, I am happy. And then we notice an IS-3. So I'm going to load my heat for the front of this one. And... oh yes, we get 2 ammo racks full health back to back. So to recap, we shot a Leo for nearly 900 damage. And then we had 2 full health ammo racks back to back. Now this T-54 is in need of help, so we get one into the side of the IS-6 at the same time he does. And we finish him off as a result. Now, by this point in the game, we are only just winning, and I am probably still laughing by the fact there is 2 full health ammo racks back to back. So I don't really play my best from here on out. I actually probably get a little bit too cocky and go headfirst into this ST1 by here. But this does give me the opportunity to give you a prime example, if you haven't driven the Waffle, what it's like. There are plenty of enemies around this ST1, but because I'm such a big, soft, squishy target to him, he ignores everything else and just focuses me. So there's plenty of other things to shoot at him, but at the moment he does not care. All he wants to take shots at is me, because he knows he will do tremendous damage to me. So you can see, there's one on the other side of him, he is ignoring him, he does not care, he just wants to kill me. But T-54 shoots him again at the same time I do, which means we do finish him off, and we are on 4 kills. So again, we are on to the last one. I don't think we'll get it, but obviously we just want to get as much damage as we can in. I can't believe this shot actually goes in, because look, almost blocked by the Super Persian, but we do manage to get 1 shot into that Tiger 2. Like I said, pure RNG. There was no skill involved in this one, but it's just downright hysterical. But 5,627 damage with 50% crew. I was very happy with this one. Ammo racks with such a high caliber gun are not uncommon. Ammo racks with full health tanks back to back are pretty uncommon. Now when we have a look at the breakdown of the battle, we fired a total of 7 shots and 6 penetrated. So we did 5,600 damage with only 6 penetrating hits. This screen also shows the benefit of HE. We got the HE into the lower plate of this Leo, took his ammo rack, his tracks. We also killed his commander and his gunner. Obviously there we can see the IS-8 ammo rack, and going down to the IS-3, you can see we got one there as well. Anyway, that is all for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope there's some useful information in it, and if not, I just hope you enjoyed the ammo racks. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.